Okay, so let me look here. The interview I want to talk about. So FF14. So basically, there was an interview. It was like a one-to-one dev interview between Koji Fox and uh, the director and writer for Hi-Fi Rush, John Johannes. And they had a one-to-one interview that was sponsored and like hosted by MinMax, the YouTube channel. And in it, there were some kind of interesting things that Koji said about Yoshi-P and like how they feel after FF16, because this interview was really about FF16. Hold on. Oh, sorry. Sorry. This interview was really about Koji's role on FF16 as localization director, but it was actually interesting because he said, and I think this is probably true for FF14 as well, but I'm not sure. But Koji said, you know, localization director, that's just the name that's the title they picked. They ended up having to pick for what he does. But if you really put everything he does into a title, it would be way too long because he does all kinds of stuff. He's doing like voice recording, he's doing motion cap, he's doing scenario writing, world building, all kinds of narrative related stuff across the whole, like he's like a creative developer and engineer for FF16. I'm pretty sure that's the same type of stuff he does for FF14. Because I think I've heard him say something similar about that for what he does on FF14. But yeah, the interview was really centered around like what he did for FF16, but it ended up being pretty interesting about comments he made about Naoki Yoshida. So FF14 and FF16 senior translator Koji Fox says, you can kind of tell game director Naoki Yoshida is like, I'm done with dark fantasy. I want to do something light again. Tonal recall. So Naoki Yoshida, producer of both the critically acclaimed you know, you gotta put that in there. MMORPG, Final Fantasy XIV, as well as Final Fantasy XVI, which is still yet to come to PC. In terms of tone, FF14 is a celebratory grab bag of Final Fantasy stories, whereas 16, from what I've seen, hangs its hat far more upon Game of Thrones style dark fantasy. Of course, there's still a side of giant kaiju battles with primals, but still it is a more somber affair at first glance. So honestly, one thing I like about FF14 is the fact that it doesn't feel like constant fan service most of the time. Like, yes, there's a lot of mentions and references to the past Final Fantasies, but usually it's like it's done in a way that blends into the story we're trying to tell right now, and usually doesn't feel like it's getting in the way. I'm not saying that has never happened, because it did happen, but 95% of the time I would say that usually the references are you know, they're handled the way that they should be handled, like a nice thing, like if you get it, you get it. If not, it's not a big deal. Now in this interview with Koji Fox, he said, I went from something very light, like Final Fantasy XIV, where it's craziness, it's all over the place. You have the weirdness of Hildebrand. Then you go to FF16, and it's a game about slavery and the end of the world and humans losing their wills, and it's so heavy. Now, I don't know, because FF14 also has some extremely dark stuff in it. But I guess maybe at this time he had been looking at Hildebrand and then jumping from that into work on FF16. I don't know how much back and forth he did between these games at the time. But FF14 is definitely fair to say that it is crazy. It's all over the place because you have something as goofy and silly and lighthearted as Hildebrand, and then you have stuff that's like body horror that we got in Endwalker. You have stuff like, well, I can't spoil anything, but there was really, really dark stuff in Stormblood and Shadowbringers too. I mean, there was cannibalism at one point, I recall. And okay, anyways, in case you're unfamiliar, The English localization team of FF14 is some of the best in the business, adding a unique smorgasbord of accents, speech styles, and whatever Urianger's got going on into their translated script. I wonder how Urianger sounds in other languages. I've actually never thought about that before. How does... I mean, there might be buns in the chat who can answer that. What is Urianger like in other like did they find a way to make him talk in like a really, really old-fashioned way? Let me know. I can't speak to FF16's translation, but I'm willing to bet an equal amount of care went into it from Koji Fox and his team. Yeah, how is German Urianger? Like, how are the different people? The thing is, F14, even at its dark at times, has touches of levity. That is true. That is true, yeah. Usually they try to put in some, like, for example, in Endwalker, when you meet the bunnies, when you meet the cute little Loporrit bunnies, I remember that happening immediately after some extremely sad and upsetting stuff had gone on. And I was so upset and bothered by that when I finally met the Loporrits, like I think under normal circumstances, meeting the Loporrits, I would be, you know, jumping for joy. Like, really excited. But at the time, I was still not done processing the pain of what I've just gone through. And so I was happy, but I think I've looked back, I've just had other people like look and see, oh, what was her reaction to the Loporrits? And I was just kind of like, oh, that's great. They're so cute. They're really cute. Yeah, really. Like, it was just kind of an emotional whiplash sometimes. I've read in some languages Urianger just speaks in a more formal style that older people would use. I guess that makes sense. Anyway, yeah, they usually do try to sprinkle in some lighthearted stuff so you can kind of recover from dark stuff. So still, he said he found the transition between themes hard, making that switch. It's like, no longer can I make these jovial jokes because they're not gonna fit the game, but I still want to throw in some things. Now, if you don't know this about Koji Fox, I don't know, maybe you're a new player, you haven't been tuned into the community for that long. Koji Fox is absolutely infamous for putting so many dad jokes and like silly little jokes and humor all throughout the game. And he's the person that came up with dolls balls, the expression that you might sometimes hear NPCs say. And his explanation of how he came up with that is honestly hilarious. And you know what? I should probably play it right now. Let me just go ahead. For the people that don't know what Koji Fox is about or why he's such a meme, we gotta, yeah, I think it's worth me playing this really quickly. Yeah, we gotta. Okay. So this is from Fan Festival 2014 when Koji explained how he came up with the origin for the expression Thal's Bloody Balls. This is Koji, our beloved localization director for FF14, and he also did that for FF16. And we were talking about some comments he made about FF14. And but before we got into it, I was like, no, but some of y'all might not know what he's about. So let me introduce you to, like, so you know why we meme about Koji, or anytime we see a dad joke in the game. Usually I'm just like, Koji! And this is, like, I think this is a really good introduction to what he's like. He's been cooking for a decade now, exactly. So I was gonna play this to clue people in, because it's actually hilarious.
Can you please talk on the origin of the in-game expletive, Thal's Bloody Balls?
So he was asked.
Yes.
Such a good.
As you know, I like swearing.
I do know that about you.
Well, that's the thing. It's, you know, I mean, this is a fantasy world, and you know, we're talking about everyday people here who have this. You know, they have hard lives, and they live these hard lives. They have to fight gigant toads to get their breakfast, and I mean,
protect their babies.
Protect their babies. You know, calamities happening.
Left
they
and
have,
right.
They have a hard job. It's almost all manual labor.
Right.
And so, I mean, people are going to swear because that's natural. That's a natural thing to do. I didn't want to, have the game be whitewashed.
Right.
You wanted to make it feel real by having people swear. And so I wanted to get as much swearing as possible. And I got that descriptor, language.
All because of you. We
All
have a
because of
language
me.
descriptor
Just put
for
as
the
much in as
SRB.
possible. And so, but yeah. And so, when you think about swearing in, on here on Earth, a lot of it is based on religion. I mean, you have your goddams and things like. It's basically
Okay, yeah. You don't need to make a list.
I'm going to stop there.
Don't
But
list.
it's that blasphemy is part of putting strength behind those words. And so because Eorze has 12 gods, it's like, hey, that's 12 gods we can use when we swear. And so when back in 1.0, working with Yuel-san on this, and he came to me with okay, I want to make 12 gods. Can you help me with the names? I was thinking, okay, the first thing I thought was okay, how can I use these names in some expletive? This is gonna be awesome. Expletive.
So
That's how you work. You work.
before he even came up with the names for the gods, he's thinking, how can we use the names in expletives? So he picked some names that would work really well. And that was that's so it's kind of backwards of how you might normally.
Yeah, I work backwards.
Yeah.
How can I
better
swear with it?
Yeah, and then we go back from there.
And so I thought, it's okay, what do I want to use? Balls. I want to use balls.
Balls.
What rhymes with balls? And I was like, can we call the god Thal? And he was like, I don't know. It's kind of short. I kind of want a longer name in Japanese. And so how about Nald Thal? And it's like, Nald Thal's bloody balls. I mean, no. It doesn't have the good ring to it.
It doesn't roll off your tongue, I guess.
mean, so how about we make Nald Thal, we split it and make it like a double aspected god. So basically, before I mentioned anything, it was just a regular god that was going to be the god of the afterlife. And then I said, because I wanted to use Thal separately, so it's for Thal's bloody balls.
Unbelievable.
Thal's balls,
Unbelievable.
I made him a dual aspected god. So that's how Nald Thal became dual aspected. So I could use Thal with Thal's balls.
I don't think we should be telling these stories.
Yeah, literally that is the reason why Nald Thal is a dual god. It's just so he could say Thal's balls.
Lifting a lot of the veil.
This is great.
Another thing about Thal's balls,
One more.
is that
No.
before we submitted the PlayStation 3 version to Sony, you have to submit it ahead of time so they can do a check, an in-game check. We
Balls
didn't
come
have
in
all the
pairs.
Translation done.
True.
One of the things that wasn't complete was the little balloon text that pops up when you run next to an NPC, and maybe a little balloon will pop up in it. And there was probably about 300 of those, and we hadn't finished any of it. But if you don't have text in there, then Sony will fail your master, and you have to go back and remake the game, and it costs a lot of money.
Okay.
And so I just put Thal's balls in 300 times. So every NPC that you talk about, Thal's balls, Thal's balls, Thal's balls. They just say, we passed, baby.
Oh my god.
We passed the Sony test. They accepted us. Thal's balls.
Yeah, so Koji is a massive meme.
I wish I
He's
could
so
be
proud of himself too. Look how smug he is. He's absolutely thrilled.
just ahead of time so I can prepare myself mentally for them.
Yes.
All right. What?
He is an absolute delight and a treasure. He's a national treasure. But
please
anyway, I feel like it's a really important video to show people from time to time so that you know what he's about. You understand why we love Koji, why so many things there's so many dad jokes and memes and stuff in the game. A lot of times we can blame Koji for that. And he was talking about the fact that he said you can kind of tell Yoshi-P is I'm done with dark fantasy. I want to do something light again. So we're going through this interview, and he said that making that switch between how dark and edgy FF16 is, and then going into FF14 where things are kind of more crazy and all over the place. He said making that switch, it's no longer can I make these jovial jokes because they're not going to fit in the game, but I still want to throw in some things. That's not to say FF14 as a story isn't serious. It gets plenty intense sometimes and discusses a lot of surprisingly heavy subject matters, but it balances that with goofs, irreverence, character-focused comedy, and an overall hopeful tone. Actually, I've been really critical about a lot of the Endwalker patches, but I think some of the stronger points of these patches were the points when there was this stuff like character focused comedy and like silly moments and funny things like that going on. I really enjoyed like one thing that was really memorable for me, and actually this isn't from the patches, it's from the main story. I think it's safe to say is when a couple of the characters get kind of sick after teleporting. And I thought that was really fun. Like, and so I think that we can probably expect more of that kind of thing in Dawntrail, more chances to get to know characters better through this silly things going on. He says, for example, the side quest Fox mentions, the Hildebrand adventures, are a slapstick comedy drama where the laws of physics don't apply, and suplexes from oiled up goldsmiths reign supreme. Fox says that he's also seen the same desire for a thematic vacation from Yoshida. Now that I'm at this point, I look over at Yoshi-P every now and then, and you can kind of tell he as well is like, I'm done with dark fantasy. I want to do something light again. And so it seems like, I mean, maybe you can, I guess you can kind of read it in between the lines a little bit here and see that like, they're excited to work on Dawntrail. They're excited to like work on some of these, this vacation expansion is what they've called it. Going back into the world of tongue-in-cheek writing might have its own challenges though. Fox says, whatever project I get put on next, there's going to be this paradigm shift in that direction again, where I'm going to have to switch all this darkness and edginess that I've fostered over the past 5 years. It's now going to have to get thrown out the window for something more lighthearted. Yeah, so wait, now is he going to have the own... Now he's gonna have a new problem where he's been working on this edgy stuff, and now he's gonna do another tone switch. But I think with Koji, he's famous for being funny. Like really, he's famous for his humor and his comedy. So I think that that just comes pretty naturally to him. And I wonder if I feel like it's gonna be a big relief for them. If you're wondering why the upcoming expansion Dawntrail hasn't given Fox the metaphorical beach episode he's been yearning for, it's because he's been in a more supervisory role while working on FF16. Dawntrail's localization lead position was, yes, so Kate is the one who's taken over for Dawntrail localization. Still, Fox says that he's looking forward to whatever we have to do next, even if Yoshi-P still hasn't told him yet. But he is still in a supervisory role, so he is still like involved with the development of Dawntrail, but just not to the same degree. So Dawntrail's quests are not going to be dark, but bright and optimistic. That is what it seems like. Tone switches are good for an MMO though. Can't have a cataclysm on the horizon all the time. I don't know. Whenever I first heard about Dawntrail, I thought, oh, this is going to be all like fluff and light and like not serious at all. And maybe that's what we need right now. But then they started showing some stuff like the Eliminator boss and Solution 9. And you start hearing about, it started to look, I heard Yoshi-P say something like, the first part is going to feel, like he said, like part of it is going to feel one way and then the other part is going to feel completely different. I think I remember him saying something like that at FanFest. And that's when I started thinking, okay, so it's going to be all fun and games and sunshine for the first part, and then all the shit's going to hit the fan later. And then the other day, I think it was maybe last week, we heard one of them say, oh, there was, God, I can't remember where I heard it, but it was a discussion about Dawntrail where people involved in the project said that you're not going to run out of reasons to cry. Do you remember that? Dawntrail has many reasons to cry. This was it. It was the PC Games. Yeah, this was it. In article. Kate said, there's still going to be plenty of reasons to cry. In a good way. So it definitely seems like the mood is going to not be, you know, sweet tea and magnolias the whole time. Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, look, it's not going to be as dark as FF16. And it's not going to be as edgy as that. But yeah, it's going to be a bit of a roller coaster, I imagine. I think that the vacation, the beach vacation, is not going to last for all that long. I wonder what Solution 9 is. But I think it's going to be stuff that's like FF9 inspired. That seems to be the general consensus. But yeah, anyways, I thought that was interesting. Article. Shola taking that final catnap in this. There's no shot. There's no way that they're going to get rid of a major character. I just don't think it's going to happen. Solution 9 looks like the same aesthetic as the Manderville weapons. It's a Manderville zone. What? Better not. Excited for a new build-up. There will be so much to this expansion. Yeah, not after it. I think they really need to... Here's what I really hope happens with the main story. They really, really need to, at the end of it, have a big, serious threat that persists in some way. Like, yes, maybe we can kill a big bad guy, but he needs to represent some part of a much broader threat that is going to keep people's attention through the patches. Like, I really don't want there to be another situation where people finish Dawntrail and then they feel like, okay, well, we saved the day. All the problems are solved. I'm done. I'll see you in 2 years. You know, like, I would like whatever happens to carry on and continue to be developed on for the patch story. I do not want to have another expansion where the patch stories feel kind of separate, because I think that's people just gonna get used to unsubbing for the lifetime of the expansion. Yeah. Tell original story, just like how Shadowbringers did, or really the other expansions have done. Stormblood did that. Shadowbringers did it extremely well, maybe too well. I think it's almost unfair to compare anything to how Shadowbringers handled patches, because that was honestly just spectacular. There's still so many reflections to explore. Xenos 2. I wouldn't count it out, honestly. I wouldn't be surprised. He's just gonna show up. You're gonna look behind your shoulder and Xenos is gonna be there just to jump scare you as a test of your reflexes. I just hope there's more conflict between the same team in Dawntrail. Kind of like Estanian and Iceheart. Oh, that's a really good point. In Heaven's Word. Yeah, I hope so too. I would like to see some of the Scions do some questionable stuff, because I feel like that's something the game is kind of missing. The Scions are all really good people, and they all usually do the right thing, and everybody's like agreeing on stuff, and there's usually not a whole lot of conflict between us. It would be nice to see someone do something kind of messed up and maybe have good reasons for doing it, and have it be, you know, this big debate, like, was that the right thing to do or not? Xena's gonna float over your shoulder like mini Midgard's over. That's funny. Alphino starts to sell crack. I don't think he'd be the one to do that, no. Aren't the Scions splitting into 2 factions for the next expansion? Yes, exactly. So it seems like they are planning that, but the question is to what extent. If you actually look at the Dawntrail artwork, the Dawntrail art poster, a really popular theory being that if you look at it, you can see there are people split down the middle. Yeah, there's a split. Estinian gambling addiction. Yes. I don't think Estinian would last very long with a gambling addiction. He would just lose it all instantly and not have any left to keep gambling with, because we know he's quite bad at managing money. This is, yeah, the person on top definitely seems to be someone connected to Solution 9. That's what I think. Oh, but what if... What if... Okay, so we know Wook is one of the claimants to the throne. And I think his name was Koana. Another claimant. Or was it this guy's name? These two, he's a claimant. And I think Aaronville could also be a claimant to the throne. But I bet that he's the type who doesn't want it and who decided to just support Wook instead. That's kind of my running theory. I bet he's the one who doesn't even really want it, and he's the one who's going to end up getting it. So we can have our bunny king. He's adopted brother to Wook. Yeah, but they're both... So wouldn't they both have the same ability to go for that? Because all the kids are adopted. It's all the adopted children. I just came back from a 7-year hiatus. Dang! Had 3 expansions to get through, and I wouldn't have predicted how any of them went. So Dawntrail, anything could happen. Yeah, I'm really bad at predicting how things go too. That's crazy. Welcome back. Oh my goodness. I want to see genuine conflict between them, like Alice and Alfie getting pissed. They're being condescended to. Yeah. Yeah. I want to have them to have like real reasons to be upset with each other. I want drama. The drama episode. I'm kind of expecting the whole Succession thing to be done and dusted by the time Solution 9 business yeah, but what if... Okay, hear me out, right? What if Solution 9 lady is also someone that wants to take power? What if we got another person who's like, oh, y'all fighting over that? Well, I decided that with my superior technology, I'm going to take over. Drama, not trauma. Yes. But it's still a Sprout and Realm Reborn, so all this is far, far off for me yet. Well, you know, in this case, we all know as much as you do about Dawntrail. It's all good. Yoshi-P said they don't want to do drastic character changes because people will always complain about preferring the original. But they have done that over time. Like, they have done it before with Thancred. Thancred changed so much. He went through an era where he was... honestly, less likable than he was in Realm Reborn. And then in Shadowbringers, he had an absolutely amazing character arc. And now, I would like to see him kind of... And I think I've seen this a bit in the CGI trailer. With him flirting with those girls. Start to see OG Thancred come back a little bit. Like that roguish, cool guy. And I'm happy for that. That's what I want to see. I want to see him like not bothered by anything serious for once. And let him chill out finally. Really disliked Thancred at the start, really. Thancred is finally not a stale piece of bread. Yeah, Thancred is super cool now. But what was he even doing in the last story quest? I felt like he just decided to not be involved, but he also didn't have anything else going on. Do you guys remember? That someone, I think they were even like, where's Thancred? Oh, he's like doing whatever. He can't help us. Do you remember that? What was he doing? It's been a couple of months. Oh, did he introduce us? And then he was like, okay, see you later. I need to go shop for sandals and swim shorts. Bye. He was roping at Urianger for the job for the client. Oh, yeah, that's right. That's why. That's right. Because he's working against us, so he was trying to keep his distance. That's true. Yeah. He's doing recon Thancred things. It seems like Graha is going to be in this expansion less, which is lame. Here's my theory about that, because I agree with you. I was really upset when Graha was like, Oh no, Carl, you go on ahead. I'll just work. That sucked because it was obvious that he's really wanted to do this. But here's what's gonna happen. Kryl is gonna take the stage for this whole conflict that's going on. And then whenever we get to solution 9, that's where we're gonna get Graha's help. That Graha is gonna join us for that part. I'm sure of it. Because he has such an extensive knowledge of Allegan technology. And this isn't exactly the Allegans, but I'm sure it's gonna help. We're gonna need his help to understand all that. He also shows up to eat a taco, so we know he's gonna be there. We just don't know how long it's gonna take. He's in Tonal. He's the taco mancer, yeah.